Welcome back. This is the next video in the tutorial series. At this point, let's just see what we've done. We have just set up a simple base controller for movement. Character rotates in the direction he's moving, and he jumps. He's got a ground check. So everything is working. You can only do a single jump at this point. Like I said, we'll progress through this in the videos. So next thing I want to do is, I know this is physically accurate, but I want to be able to control that when the character falls down, he just falls down a little bit faster, so I can control the downward speed. uh, Games have been doing this for years, and that's kind of why we feel comfortable with doing that, and it just feels right. So just at the bottom here, I'm going to just add another fixed update in the bolt. Not fixed joint, fixed update, there we go. And we're going to plug into here, we're going to do a branch. I only want to do this when the character is not on the ground and when he's falling in the negative, which means he's dropping down back towards the ground, not on the way up. So what are we going to check for in this branch? We're going to first go to the object variables, and we're going to grab the grounded, and we're going to see, and we're going to say if the grounded is not equal. And what is it not equal to? Full literal true. So if it's not true, or we could have said instead of, let's just right click and replace and say equal, same thing. So if we say if grounded is equal to false, which means he's no longer on the ground, and we're going to go and I'm going to break this and just plug that into the bottom, and all we need to do is get the player's velocity. So we're going to add a new unit, and we're going to say rigid body dot velocity get. So we want to get the velocity, and all we care about is the y movement, which is the up and down. So we're going to type in vector 3 dot y, and we're going to plug that. We're going to also check that before we plug it in. We're going to move this around. We're going to say if this is a less than, and then we can plug that into the AND statement. What is it less than? We're going to leave it as it is, 0, because if it is less than 0, which means the character's falling to the ground. So just to give you an idea, imagine if when the character's moving up on screen, that means it's a positive value. If he's moving down on screen, it's a negative value. So the same thing goes for when he's moving right on screen, it's a positive value. When he's moving left on screen, it's a negative value. So that's how I'm getting whether or not it should be a less than 0. Okay, so that check is going to make sure, this is just to, let's put a group around this and just say check if player is falling and not grounded. There we go. That's all we're doing here. We're checking if the player is falling and if it's not grounded. Okay, so that will keep it so that whenever I put something in an update or a fixed update, I don't like it being fired unless I have no other choice. I don't like putting a lot of things in the update if I don't have it, unless I have no other choice. So this way, this branch is going to block anything after this if this comes back as false. If it comes back as true, then go ahead and do all that other stuff. But for now, we're just telling it not to do any of that stuff. Okay, so all we need to do now is go and type in rigid body dot velocity, and this time we're going to do a set. We want to, if this comes back as true, if the player is falling and he's no longer grounded, we want to update the player's velocity. Okay. We need to create a new variable. I'm going to create it in the object variable so I can access it inside of the editor. This one's going to be, let's call it fall multiplier. So this is going to be what's going to control how fast the player falls to the ground. It's going to be a float, and I think by default, let's make it 1 for now. Okay, so we have a fall multiplier. Just like the jump force, when the jump force adds force to get the character off the ground, this one's going to take the current gravity of Unity, multiply it by this value, and it will either make him drop slower or faster. If we put a negative value in here, the character is going to kind of float up into the air because we're taking the gravity and we're just messing with it. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to right click and we're going to type in rigid body dot velocity, and this time we're going to get the velocity, And all we care about here is we're going to add what we want to this velocity, and then when we're done with it, we're just going to plug it directly back into the velocity. So remember, orange node means there's something missing, which means B needs to have something in here. So what do we need to do? We are going to add a vector 3.up, because that's the direction in which I want to control the gravity, in the vector 3.up. And we are going to multiply that. And what are we multiplying that by? We are going to be multiplying this value. Let me just give myself some more space here. We're going to be multiplying this by the fall multiplier. And we also need to take this. We need to multiply this one more time. So I'm just going to duplicate this here, plug it here. Okay, so before we actually tell the object how much gravity, like how much velocity to add, we need to take the full multiplier and multiply it by the current gravity. So we're going to right click and type in physics.gravity, and we only care about one axis, which is the y. So we're going to type in vector 3.y, and we're going to plug that into the top. If you're wondering where this gravity value is, if you go to edit, project settings, and just go to either physics 2D or whichever one you're using, and at the top you'll see that there's that gravity value, that minus 9.81. That is the value I'm going to be multiplying with. Okay, so I could go in here and adjust this value, but this now will affect all objects in the physics calculation. So the way I'm doing it here is just, what if everything else is behaving the way I like it, and the character is the one that I need to adjust? So I don't want to mess around too much with anything outside of this character. So all I'm doing is taking the current gravity, which is minus 9.81, and multiplying that by a full value, and then adding that into the new, this is what your new gravity is. It's no longer negative 9.81, it might become negative 20, so it becomes a lot stronger. Okay, just to be safe, because we're doing this in an update and we are using physics, I just want to multiply this one more time by time.fixed delta time. Now this can work without it, but I always kind of just put this in as a fail-safe. You never know when something weird happens, when a performance drop or something. So I put this in them. The only major difference is this value, this full multiplier, is going to have to be a bigger number. That's it. That's the major difference. Performance-wise, this should make a really big difference as far as when you're playing a game on a lower spec machine as opposed to a higher spec machine. So I'm going to put a group around this, and let's call this full multiplier. There we go. So this is going to control our gravity. So now we can test to see if this works. I'm going to just have this visible here so you can see how this only fires if the character is falling. So right now it should be grounded and the character shouldn't be falling. So notice how it's locked off. You'll see that the movement lines are being blocked by the branch. The moment I jump on the way down, notice how the character is already falling a lot faster than the one on the right. So we can take this value and play around with this value. Let's make it 10 and see what happens. Notice how it falls a lot faster. Boom. There we go. So now we have a way to control the gravity. So you're probably not going to want to make it as drastic as 10. This is where playtesting and tweaking and refining it to get the kind of jump that you're looking for. There we go. So now we have a full multiplier added to our character drop. So we can now control the character's downward movement based on this. And this gravity only gets applied when the character is physically dropping to the ground or falls off a ledge. So if he falls off a ledge or a platform or whatever it is, this gravity will take effect, because the moment you go off a ledge, this is going to come back as false, and that's going to come back as going below 0, and then all of this will fire again. So that is pretty much our entire, let's call this tweak gravity when character is falling. There we go. So that's what this does. So I'm just going to keep it down here. You can color code this stuff if you guys wonder. If you go full screen mode on the left here, you can change the color to anything you want, just so that it's probably easier to read. And just change the colors to some random colors. There we go, and we'll just change this last one, like a pink, just so that at first glance you can like, oh, okay, cool. That's what that does, that and that, and it's just easier for the eye to pick up. And that's the full multiply. So now that we've done that, let's do the exact same thing in code. I'm going to select my character. I'm going to open up my script. I use Visual Studio Code. You can use Visual Studio. It makes no difference. You can even use another API like Rider. You can use something like Atom or Treya, whatever it is that you want to use. Okay, I'm just letting it update. Okay, so what do we need? We have remember we added a variable. So at the top here, I'm going to make it a Serialize Field. Remember, Serialize Field is accessible. It's a field that gets serialized to the editor, but can't be read from other scripts. So this one is called full multiplier, and I'm just going to give it a default value. I think 5 is what we set the other one, so, or not originally, but I'm going to set it to what we tested the other one to be. Oh wait, what did I forget? To give it a type. So full multiplier, that's my variable I'm going to be using. So in the fixed update, that's where this goes. We're going to just add a new line here. I'm just going to put a comment. Let's call this full multiplier when, wait, let's just say adjust gravity when player is falling. There we go, that's what that does. I'm going to put an if statement. Sorry about that. And what are we going to check for? The same thing we checked on the other side. First, we're going to check to see if grounded. So I think we called it on ground. What did we call it? I actually can't remember. Grounded. So we're going to copy grounded here. So if grounded, exclamation grounded. So if grounded is false, and we're going to look for the RB, which is the shortcut for the variable I created, velocity.y is less than 0. Okay, so that's exactly what we did in Bolt. We're saying if the character is not grounded and he's falling, so if the velocity of the y-axis is less than 0, then we're just going to go and say RB dot velocity plus equals, because remember, like we did on the other side, we're adding to the current velocity. So we're not overriding the current velocity, we're just adding to the velocity he already has. So we're saying grab his current velocity and just add what we're going to do to that. And what are we doing? Remember, we did the whole vector3 dot up, multiplying it. So we're multiplying the vector3 dot up by rb dot velocity dot y, and then we're multiplying that by our full multiplier, and then the last one is we're just going to multiply that by time dot fixed delta time. So again, exactly the same thing as Bolt. It might look a little confusing, but it is identical in the way the logic is. So we're saying get the up vector, which is the up direction, that's going to be our jump, multiply that by the upward velocity or downward velocity by the full multiplier, and then final thing is just update, just multiply that by fixed delta times. So let's go back to Unity, let that compile, and we can test that out. So both of them are now going to be set to 5, so they should both jump and land the exact same way, unless the other one reset back to normal. The other one reset back to normal. So let's go to Bolt and set our Bolt full multiply to 5. Is my C# multiplier? Okay, so it looks like my, let's see, we are adding the rigid body, adding that. We're updating vector3 dot up, multiplying that by the vector, RB dot, oh, gravity, not velocity, my apologies, that was dumb. So let's do that again. So over here we're going to type in physics dot gravity dot y. I knew I was typing too quickly and not thinking it through. Okay, So let's test that now. Now that should be fine. Dum dum. There we go. Okay, so now that we have a way to control the gravity of the character and the way he falls, you can mess around with this as much as you want. This is a really nice way to kind of maybe, well, you could do a ground smash with a different system altogether, but kind of gives you an idea of how you do a ground smash. And this also is going to build onto how we would do a dash, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm just going to make both of these values 10 just so it's a little bit more obvious. And then that's it for our full multiplier and our new taking the current gravity and tweaking it to make it something that feels a little bit more believable, even though it's not. It makes just kind of makes it feel a little more believable. There we go. Okay, so that's it for this part of the video, and I'm going to show you now in the next video. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to go to Mixamo. That is an Adobe website that allows you to grab models, put in your own models, grab animations. It's a really nice way to just get animations quickly for prototyping, and then afterwards you can go and replace all of these animations with your own custom stuff. But in the next video, it's going to be a short one. I'm just going to show you what Mixamo is all about, what things to consider when exporting them, and then we're going to bring those models into Unity, and then I'm going to show you a few things when you're importing them. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and wait for the next one. It will be out soon.